Alright guys, such Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Poor one out for Hicksy. Dropped off this roster not that long ago. Neptune comes in and the team has absolutely turned itself on its head, that Vancouver Surge. Even when Neptune not having a dominant performance in the grand finals, nonetheless that Surge team still looked far better than they have done in a very long time. But it is the Los Angeles Thieves, the tournament favourite, at which point Surge took out FaZe, who take the victory, but in very marginal fashion indeed. Lots of interesting storylines today, absolutely going into the major, what it means for some of the other teams in the league as well, but our Surge legitimately now in that second, third best team in the game category and part of the big three that we were not expecting them to be part of when we started out this season. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Before we get into this series, there was a bit of drama going down here, so obviously with all the OpTic situation happening, there's been discussion as to who they might need to get in, and this guy justifies theirs, pick up Encourage, drop Kenny, and I'm telling you that is the way to go. Now, Encourage has got some good PR. Now, as Band says, I need this sort of PR. Drop someone who's been in 4 out of the last 7 champs finals and won 2 for a rookie 18-year-old, right? So, look, obviously, we talk about Kenny. We're going to discuss it, I'm sure, more in the coming days, whether this is a good idea or not. The reality is that Encourage is a top name in the challenger side. Of course, he was on Stallion, Zumas gassed him up, Dashy gassed him up. Dashy even said he thinks this guy could be a future world champion, but he's not exactly had the best run in challenges, and his PR within challenges from the player perspective hasn't been doing so well, because that clip went around of him saying, oh, I don't know how much more of this I've got left in me or whatever. The guy's, he's only a young player, so he's got lots to learn and still develop, but it's not like he's been the absolutely undeniable dominating challengers they are. Like, there's other picks ahead of him. He's not been looking great, but he's getting good PR, and sometimes that's how it works, isn't it? That's kind of what Bant's here is implying. And obviously people were then talking about it, and he says, I don't know why I even have to quote tweet this, but Ghosty won a Challengers event while being under TJHaLy Enterprises, Tyler Fellow's team, yet Encourage isn't even making elites, because there was discussion the fact that, well, if you're going to take this attitude, then why would you pick Neptune up? Why would you pick up, the likes of a Ghosty, for example? But Encourage isn't necessarily quite in that type of position. And then Encourage came out and said, because people, I guess, were clowning him with all this happening, and he says, look, just chill with what's going on. All of these challengers guys hate me. So pretty interesting drama to start out the day. But let's begin here, because the first series, Thieves versus the Ravens, this felt a little bit to me like it was going to be a foregone conclusion. Thieves' hardpoint is just better than where Ravens is. Frankly, it's better than where they've always been. But to be fair, Ravens did get more points in this one map than they got over 2 maps combined back in the major. So I guess that's a positive to some degree. I think Gwinn will feel like he could have played better, right, for sure. I also think for Thieves, this scoreboard is really telling for how good Thieves are, and certainly can be in that mode. Scrappy's actually negative here, with decent hill time and again always good damage. HyDra's positive. Like, the damage is just very evenly split. Ghosty's just chilling in the hill. This is a team that, look at the number of assists as well. Like, okay, obviously Ravens are going to have fewer assists. They lost the series. But still, like, this scoreboard, because they didn't outslay tremendously, Thieves just playing some really solid stuff right now, and honestly playing into all of their kind of, let's say, strengths to a great extent. This, though, was one that Ravens will, if they'd have won this, who knows? Maybe they could have won the series in 5. But they go up 5-2 on the Hassy, and Thieves bring it back to 5-5, and then it's a 2 versus 3. Gwinn gets absolutely gunned there by Scrap at a 1 versus 3 for Slasher. He gets the first, but after that, of course, they knew where he was, and it was going to be a serious challenge on his hands, especially because he's got to get the bomb down in this scenario. So, yeah, difficult one for Gwinn. Obviously, he was having some good rounds until the comeback started. Then it obviously all started to fall apart. Scrap gets the final one on Slasher. That's GG's for that game, and they end up losing the control as well. So, yeah, Thieves looking good. This, of course, was the critical map, though. Slasher knows that there's more that Ravens could do, but still, Ravens walking away with another top 4. It's not exactly ideal, right? They made the grand finals last time against FaZe. They lost to another minor, but they're in the points, like, they've secured another 10 CDL points for getting top 4, which is, like, everyone will be having one eye on World Championship qualification, because with OpTic struggling, OpTic are now on the border of being where, the World Championship qualification line is. Cloud9 are making strides, Obviously, Surge are making massive strides, as we'll get into here in a second, and every other team is pretty okay in that kind of midfield, apart from Gentlemates and Falcons. Like, every other team has at least a good chance to make it to champs. Ravens are obviously substantially ahead, but still, they just keep racking up points, you know, when these tournament opportunities become available. Unfortunately for Gwinn, didn't have his best series, and, you know, we see that here he had a 0.84 in the end. TJ, Vivid, everyone was in the red. Thieves all in the positive in the end. So, yeah, Thieves really just showing the level they can reach. I don't think many expected Ravens to win this one, but they're still showing that, like, if they can win the searches, which they're still very good at, take a respawn off a team like Thieves, a win in 5 is possible, but, you know, right now they're not capable of better than that, even online with Gwinn, you know, typically pretty good in that type of situation. But then Toronto Surge, and I think this was somewhat telling to me. I was excited to see how this would go, not only because it would tell us about Surge and Ultra, but also because it would tell us about OpTic to some extent, because, of course, OpTic just got 3-0'd by Toronto, so if Surge come out and smoke Ultra, then, you know, obviously it raises questions, and that is basically what happened. Ultra started strong, then Surge took over, and man, Neptune's POV is just so diffy. It's incredible to think. I know that Shift mentioned this on the broadcast, that there's not been many, if any, stories in the CD. I know this is online, you know, we haven't seen Neptune go to LAN yet and all this. And okay, at least on this game, we've seen it in the past, but, you know, we'll see what happens going forwards. There's discussion of where Neptune's actually playing from. Does it confer some degree of internet advantage rather than if he's playing out of Vancouver? Whatever. That's a convo for another day, probably tomorrow, to be honest. But still, the team has made so many strides by changing a single player. Neptune is in, Hicksy is gone. They're a team of players that we know have had potential. We gassed up a lot of these guys last year, and for a couple of years, I would say, in the case of Nastie. But the way that they've been able to turn it around and become a serious contender, beating FaZe twice in a row, of course, we'll get to the grand finals here in a second. The way that they've managed it is very rare, right? Like, even Surge, when they were also a contender back in, let's say, Vanguard, with the Accuracy, Sib, Pred, and Mack team, like, that team was put together from the start of the year, full of players with a high ceiling and then a great leader in Accuracy with the intention to take down the best teams in the game. This team, of course, had ambitions, but, you know, it's gone from being mediocre to bad to all of a sudden looking incredibly impressive. And, yeah, Neptune has been the key catalyst for that in many respects. He looks unreal at this game right now. His POV is super scary to deal with. Surge go up 2-0. They quickly get the 3-0 win as well. And, you know, there were tweets like this going around, which I'm not going to dwell on for more than a couple of seconds. And this was the final scoreboard of the series. So, look, we've got to talk Ultra real quick, because I told you guys coming into the weekend that, you know, they're a bit fraudulent. Like, I don't know, they confuse me, because I think they should be better than they are. CleanX had a better time here. Beans didn't have his best series. And really, it was JoeDeceives, right? I mean, the guy at times has been on absolute fire. This series, he drops a 0.7, kind of out of nowhere, really, with 0-4 having a 1.25. Especially the control on the protocol was really impressive from Surge. So, again, Ultra, they're in that kind of, look, sure, they got 10 points on the board by losing this series, getting top 4 in the tournament, which is fine, but they're not where they want to be, Toronto, right? I think comparing, you know, the way their practice has been at times this year compared to what their results are, it's not a great comparison. And, you know, it does raise more questions about OpTic, right? Because it's not like OpTic lost to the team that went on to win the tournament. They lost to a team that then subsequently got 3-0'd in the next round. So, you know, I think the Green Wall have even more reason to be somewhat concerned. And what other way for this grand finals to go than a game 7 all the way down to the wire? Not a round 11 this time, but Surge, I think, proved in this finals. Yes, down the stretch, they just didn't quite get over the line. I mean, they easily could have won the series, Surge. They'll look back at multiple moments, even the game 7 itself, and feel like they could well have done. But the fact that they were even this competitive, that they made it this close to the tournaments, because I thought after FaZe were eliminated, you know, Thieves are going to win this one. I didn't think in 7 Surge could really beat them. But they absolutely could, and game 1 Hardpoint Surge win it. It was actually the game 2 that was pretty incredible, because, you know, Thieves bounced back here. They lost the first rounds. Then there was a great round here where there was actually a HyDra Nastie 1 versus 1. HyDra just sticks the defuse, because in this moment it's so difficult to actually defuse the bomb because there are so many places that the guy can see it from. By the time Nastie goes to have a look, he realizes, but unfortunately for him, it is too little too late. Went to a round 11, big round 11 as well, of course, because it was actually Surge on the attack this round. They got blooded in mid. I think Envoy made the call here. I know Nadejot was gassing it up on his stream because I think before this round they seemed to have a bit of a team talk, and Envoy gave them a bit of, well, seemingly a bit of wisdom on what to do. They got the first blood in mid. Envoy then capitalizes himself with 2. I think Surge played this the right way. It was just a great round. I thought Neptune for a second was going to clutch it. Look, to be fair, Neptune, despite having dominated a large part of this tournament, didn't have a great grand finals, really. But does that mean that he hasn't still been impactful? I think that's what impressed me today about this Surge team, is that it's not like Neptune in this finals was cooking and that's the only reason why they were winning maps. Like, Neptune has seemingly amplified this squad to some degree, to even such an extent that even when Nep isn't playing that well, the rest of the guys around him are playing better. This was actually really hype to watch live. This was the Control, one of 6 rounds that Thieves won in Control this map without reply, or in this series without reply. This kill from HyDra, and then, I mean, he literally hits his last bullet on 04, a critical kill to somehow get them over the line there, right? But yeah, Thieves clutched up in this round. They then did it again in the next round just afterwards on their defense. This was actually a 2v5, I think, that turned into a 1v1 and Envoy guns him. Unbelievable performance really out of Envoy lately. The funny thing was that after this generational map, he did not have a very good map the next time around, and it was really exemplified by this specific moment here. So this was causing a lot of drama. Thieves and Scrappy especially just had a massive takeover second half of this Vault hardpoint. Looked like they were about to close it out. Number 4 has just died. Number 3 is here. Number 1 is here. Number 2 is here. So, you know, you're probably thinking, if you're Thieves, that your new teammate is going to spawn in the back somewhere, but he doesn't. I think in large part that's probably just because of the way that Surge reacted. And look, you could argue Surge got lucky here with the spawns, because 4 spawns here, 3 then turns around, but it's actually too late because, well, maybe 3 maybe could have played this slightly differently, but I guess because 1 dies, then 8 spawns in the back. So, yeah, you could say this is kind of unlucky for Thieves to lose spawns in this way, because they basically lose the map because of this. But I think on some level, Surge made their luck. Like, the way that Surge played it, I think they kind of made their luck in this scenario. Okay, they probably did get lucky to some degree, and Thieves will certainly be watching the VOD review of that one. But Surge do win the map. I mean, Scrappy has a great map here, but it actually doesn't matter in the end. They tie up the series 2-2, and then they go on to win the red card search and destroy. So they take an advantage in the series, go up 3-2 in the series overall. Envoy didn't have a great map here. Nastie was making some big plays. Ghosty could have even got a 1v3 in here, but Abuzah makes a nice play, chases him down, gets the 6-4 win. And all of a sudden you're thinking, well, hang on a second, is Surge about to win this damn tournament, right? Because it would be, look, it's online, it's single limb, things are always going to happen, right? The bracket is always going to look more surprising than you expect. But still, for it to go this way was crazy. And even OpTic went as far to say, until I see Neptune's face on the camera, I'm convinced that Simp's playing for him, but he's ringing for him because, you know, this level of gameplay at that point was unprecedented. But then, fair play to Thieves, because, you know, a lot of these control rounds were close, but they didn't lose a round of control in the grand finals. And it's the dominance they have over that game mode right now, which is very concerning for the other teams. And there was a nice opportunity on the final map of the series for Thieves to get a bit of revenge, because let's not forget, back at Major 1, they lost in the grand finals on a Skyline Surge. They had it here again on the Game 7 Skyline Surge. These guys just love a Game 7, and it was nice that it went to a Game 7. It could have been a best of 5 this series. Surge would have won it if it was a best of 5, based on this specific set of vetoes, right? Like, this was a best of 5 at Minor 1, but they decided to change it, make it a best of 7 for Minor 2, which I'm happy with. I think it probably did show us who was just about the better team, but yeah, this was, as Ghosty described on Twitter afterwards, a dirty Neslo, because they win the controls, they win a couple of search and destroys, and they won the Skyline 6-3. There was a critical 2v4 that HyDra and Ghosty had. Without that round, things might be very different indeed. And HyDra didn't have a great start to this map, but he did make a couple of plays when it mattered in that 2 versus 4, redeemed himself somewhat from what happened back at the major. Tough way for Surge to lose. At the end of the day, it's an online tournament. There's 20k for the winner, though. I mean, if you win this was a series, this was a map for 5 grand each. That's a pretty damn big deal. But Abuzah with his first really great series, I would say, in some time, because, you know, it has been Neptune that's been cooking a bit, and Nastie as well. But this series, Abuzah turned up. 0-4 was all right as well in moments, but, you know, not obviously great in the controls today. And it was only really HyDra who went positive on the Thieves side, but he was positive big time, right? 1.2, 130 kills, same as Abuzah on the other side. Thieves just a bit too good, but it creates an incredibly compelling story. We now have Thieves and FaZe and Surge. You know, is that the new big 3? As kind of crazy as it is to suggest that. We'll see what happens on LAN. But this is why I love running these tournaments, because it just gives you so many great storylines that you wouldn't get if it was just regular online qualifiers. Lots to discuss over the coming days. Thieves win a tournament for the first time with the team that was intended to be put together to win basically everything. Okay, they won the K-Sun tourney as well, but this is in the regular CDL season. It's online. Does it really count? Probably not. People didn't really count FaZe's one last time, but 2 minors, FaZe won the first, Thieves won the second. Shouldn't be a massive surprise, but the way they did it, and especially with Surge being as competitive as they were, that makes this season even more fascinating, I would say, than it already was. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.